Council meeting. The time is about 6:03. Location is 65 Stone Street. We're going to have, if Chief Lamb don't mind, doing our vacation for us, and then we'll have Councilman Bovair lead us in the pledge. If I could please have everyone stand.
Let's pray. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come out and take care of the city's business, Lord. As we prepare to make our decisions to take care of our residents, our citizens, and our employees of the city, Lord, we pray that you keep a hedge of protection on our council, on our directors, and all of our city employees who are out there each and every day, Lord. Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over our country as we go through this epidemic, Lord. We pray that you be with the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and all those involved, Lord. Give us peace in everything that we can. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir.
County face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Goins.
Here.
Councilmember Bovair.
Here.
Councilmember Koss. Here. Councilmember Warner.
Here.
The Attorney Garganese.
Here.
City Manager Takanich.
Here.
And Assistant City Manager here.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 2, approval of the agenda and minutes. The agenda for the regular meetings of March 11th, 2020. What is the wishes of the council? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, under council business, I would like to add item number 2, and it's a resolution related to
Oh, yeah.
financial operations manual and the coronavirus.
So that is,
Item number 2 on the council business.
Motion to approve the agenda with the revision.
With the addition?
Revision.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilman Bovair, a second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 2, the minutes from our regular meeting of January the 8th, 2020, and special meeting of January the 30th, 2020. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from,
a second
Bovair.
and a question.
and a
Quick
second
question.
from Councilwoman Cox with the discussion.
Do we have, this will put us, we'll be caught up then.
Oh, yeah.
If we
The
could do-
next, I'm sorry, January 22nd minutes will be on the next agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm realizing how important it is
Yeah.
to
There's just a lot of
remember what I said and et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to awards and presentation. We got a presentation here for Councilwoman Warner for her graduation from EMU 4.
I think that was last year.
Was it last year?
I knew it was last year.
Do you wanna-
January,
do you wanna go
January.
down,
What
or-
does it say now? We're okay.
You sure?
I'm positive. No, we don't need no
Okay.
pictures.
There we go.
I would like to warn the rest of the council, when you decide to take the EMO 4, be prepared, because the first 3 EMOs are learning about your city and city business and how everything runs. This last one is learning about all your deficiencies. All of them, in your personal and your business life. So,
That's why they take 3 days.
yeah, that's why it's a lot of deficiencies going on, but it's definitely worth it, and I really wish it had been available to me several years ago. It would have definitely helped. So if you get the opportunity, definitely take it.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am,
Thank
and
you.
once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 2 on the under awards and presentation. We have Mr. Ben Rothenmarkle. Did I say it right?
Huh?
All right. You won't beat me up, so.
Well, I appreciate your time this evening, and I'll be brief as I can. It's about 10 minutes, I think. Last time I was here was a couple years ago when I was asking for some help for the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science. We had a very leaky roof, and you came through for that, and I very much appreciate that. We need to get the PowerPoint up on the screen if we can. But I'm going to be talking to you today about the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science and what a wonderful community resource it is, and just tell you a little bit about it, show you a couple pictures that you may not have seen.
And just by way of introduction, Ben is the executive director of the Florida Historical Society, which Coco is fortunate enough to host in our own city.
Absolutely.
And we've all been listening to him on the radio for years.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that. It'll be much more entertaining if I have my slides, though. Even though I'm on the radio, the visuals help a lot.
There you go.
No problem. Here we go. Great. All right. Well, as I say, the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science is a wonderful community resource for us. And now the clicker's not working. Okay. It's let me try that. There we go. Let's go back. There we go. Okay, we got it now. All right. Well, first of all, just a quick little background history. The Brevard Museum has been around in spirit, at least, since 1969, when a group of local folks got together and decided to incorporate and form a museum. In 1973, Brevard County Schools provided a portable building for the museum to use. They were going around with a trunk to schools, but now they had a building. In 1975, the Grace and Albert Trust allowed for construction of the main building of the museum, and then other contributors, community contributors, added to the fund and allowed for more construction, including the Junior Service League of Cocoa Titusville, the Community Women's Club of Cocoa, Merritt Islands Women's Club. And then in 2014, ownership of the museum was transferred to the Florida Historical Society. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But the Florida Historical Society, just so you know, started in 1856 in St. Augustine. We are the oldest existing cultural organization in the state, but we're right across the alleyway here in the former 1939 WPA-era post office now. But we moved all around the state for about a century and a half before settling in Brevard County. Our Library of Florida History is right across the street. We have an extensive archive there. We have the Florida Historical Society Press, which operates out of that building. We publish about 10 books a year, at least 5 books a year. We publish our academic journal, the Florida Historical Quarterly. We operate the Rossiter House Museum and Gardens down in Eau Gallie, which is another great community resource for Brevard County. We also do other things like stage theatrical presentations based on history topics. Probably our most effective educational outreach, as we've been talking about earlier, is our radio program, Florida Frontiers, the weekly radio magazine of the Florida Historical Society. And for the past, that's been on for 11 years. For the past 4 years, we've had our television version of Florida Frontiers that airs on PBS affiliates from Key West to the Panhandle. We also have our annual meeting and symposium in a different Florida city every year. But again, in 2014, the board of the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science realized that their money from the Taylor Trust was running out. They were going to have to close the doors if something wasn't done. So they came to the Florida Historical Society and asked us if we could help. And the only way we could really do that was for their board to dissolve and have the museum absorbed into the Florida Historical Society. And pictured here is the board of directors of the Florida Historical Society at the time, including a couple local people you might recognize, including Tracy Moore, who is here. We also have several museum professionals from around the state who were very valuable in helping us to upgrade the Brevard Museum. We like to say that the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science has everything from the Ice Age to the Space Age, where we sit on 22 acres of land that has nature trails that wind through 3 different Florida ecosystems. We have exhibits on Ice Age, as I said. We have a lot of pioneer exhibits, and we had great help when we first took over the museum from Delaware North to have a great Hubble telescope exhibit placed in the museum. It's really great to see kids come through there, and we have about 10,000 come through each year, and they see the saber-toothed cat, as you can see this young man fascinated with, and they look up at the mastodon skeleton that we have there, and there's just an awe. And not just kids, adults too. They walk in and can't believe it. We have a giant ground sloth. It's in back of me there. I'm about 40 pounds heavier there, but yes, it is the one in the back to the left. Again, people are attracted by it. We cover so much history there, and I'm just whipping through this so you get an overview of what we do. But we've got the Spanish colonial exhibit. We, as I say, cover pioneer, the turpentine industry, cattle industry, railroads as well, and kids love that, and adults again love the train there that we have set up. All sorts of history covered in the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science. We have the Cape Canaveral Lighthouse, a butterfly garden outside as well as the trails. The centerpiece of the museum, though, is the People of Windover exhibit. And many of you probably remember in 1982, when they were building the Windover Farm subdivision just up the road in Titusville, they were scraping away muck to create this housing development. And the backhoe operator named Steve Vanderjack uncovered he uncovered a round brownish object, and he got off his backhoe and looked at it, and he realized it was a human skull looking back at it. So they called in the police, of course. It was quickly determined that this wasn't some serial killer's burial ground or anything like that, that these were old bones. So they called in an anthropologist, a young archaeologist named Glenn Doran from FSU, who came down. He realized that these were old bones, but Native American, but even he was surprised when the carbon dating came back and they were between 7,000 and 8,000 years old. So these nearly 200 sets of intact burials were 2,000 years older than the Great Pyramids in Egypt, 3,200 years older than King Tut. So really an amazing find. And as I say, they're all buried in the same position. They're wrapped in the oldest woven cloth found in North America. The anaerobic peat bog that they were buried in allowed for remarkable preservation. 91 of the skulls had intact brain matter in them, so they could do DNA tests and determine that the same people had used this pond cemetery for over a century. So I could talk about Windover until midnight, so I'll go on from that. But it is the centerpiece of our museum. This is Holly Baker. She's the one on top there, who is our museum manager. One of the first things we did when we took over the museum is to have an artist do a forensic analysis of an actual Windover skull in the same way that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies will reconstruct a victim profile from an existing skeleton to try to identify victims. He did this with an actual Windover skull, and so we have there a very lifelike sculpture from Brian Owens, who's a well-known Florida sculptor. And so you can walk into the museum now and look into the eyes of somebody who lived here in Brevard County between 7,000 and 8,000 years ago. And we refreshed the exhibit. We cleaned it up and changed it, added a lot to it. Now there is a hands-on archaeology station because the dig was recreated, but archaeologists actually spend about 6 times more time in a lab than they do on site. So we created a little on-site lab where people can do, there's a couple kids in the back doing it, hands-on work with their replica skeletons, of course, but they can do hands-on work with that. Also there at the Brevard Museum, we moved our Florida Historical Society Archaeological Institute there. We've had over a century of close relations to archaeology in the state. We have our lecture hall there. This photograph's empty, but we have all sorts of presentations, as you can see here, that we fill up that room with community members whenever we have talks there, which is frequently. We also serve many groups. Here's some Boy Scouts there at the museum being shown. Again, we have hands-on things that they can do. That's a mastodon tooth that they can touch. This is a highwayman artist, a local highwayman artist giving a presentation there in the museum. A group of students from Japan came. We have international folks come to our museum. We also do the Florida Frontiers Festival in October, where we have a variety of multicultural musicians and presentations and exhibits. And that brings an additional 400 or so people to the museum property, and they can go in the museum and see the exhibits as well. So just quickly, again, I could talk all night about who comes to the museum, but for example, the Clear Lake Adult Education Center, the Master Naturalist Group from Brevard County, the Easter Seals Disability Services, Lake Presbyterian of Orlando, Young at Heart Senior Group from Brevard County, Rhodes Scholar groups from around the country, Hibiscus Children's Shelter of Vero Beach, Daisy Troop 404, Girl Scout Troop of Brevard County, Brevard Parks and Recreation had a group come out, Suntree Country Club of Melbourne, Cub Scout Pack 720 of Vieira, geocacher groups from Central Florida, Brevard County Nature Camp Group, Indian River Anthropological Society, several churches, and Florida Fossil Hunters, Florida Public Archaeology Network. The list goes on and on and on of folks that come and utilize this really wonderful facility. But it's not just people. We said we were on 22 acres and with nature trails. This is Buddy, the gopher tortoise, who lives there along with about 12 other gopher tortoises. And they don't just hide out in their holes. As you can see, they like to come to the museum as well. And if you can't quite see them in that picture there's a little more close up there. So we have wildlife. It's just a wonderful community resource. The problem is we've refreshed it. We've added great exhibits. We've added 2 rotating exhibit spaces. One right now has still looking at the Apollo anniversary. We've got a lot of great things there. Also maps in the other rotating space that show Florida history through maps. So a lot of exciting things going on at the museum. But museums, even with all the people that come there, they are not self-sustaining. They depend on, the Taylor Trust helped for many years, but that's gone. And we are applying for grants. We've just found out about an exciting one from the National Endowment for the Arts that can probably help us, but as I'm sure you know, those can take, years to come to fruition. The Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, who's been very supportive of some of our other efforts, hasn't been giving grants for over a year. They have just started up again. But we're in pretty dire straits without some significant help. So what I'm hoping you will consider for your upcoming budget is a multi-year agreement to help us out with $50,000 a year over the next 3 years while we move from the phase where we got the museum to where it was really a regional center right here in Cocoa to finding a more sustainable plan bringing in, and it's not that we haven't tried. We've tried to work with the cruise ships and others to bring in more, but we really need more of a solid support than that, and that would be we've cut the budget to bare bones, but $50,000 would be about half of what our budget is and help us to sustain while we look for other grants of support. So I'll leave it there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out.
Well, and I just want to say that, of course, the Science and Natural History Museum is in District 4. It is a part of an entire area that I envision being a real engine for Cocoa at some point that has the potential to be an academic district. You've got the Eastern Florida State College, you've got the planetarium currently under a tarp, Florida Solar Energy Center, the high school, the Clear Lake Adult School. I mean, that is the real education center of our community, and I hope we can look at it holistically. I hope we can see how it is, the sum or the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts. And I would invite the rest of council. We'll set up a date where we could have a workshop, and I'll visit that museum just to look at the real value to our community.
Sure, and we've had a great relationship in the past with the planetarium and the solar center to take people around to all 3 facilities, and that would be great to revive that.
And I also mentioned that Ben is interviewing Jewel Collins tomorrow morning, actually,
Absolutely.
starting to put together our exhibitions and thinking about our exhibitions, thinking about the new museum that we will be opening.
Absolutely,
So-
and we have other board members committed to that, Tracy Moore among them, to work on the Leon and Jewel Collins Museum. Absolutely.
Tracy, did you want to come up and say something, or? Did you want to do it then, or?
I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Broke-Markle has said in regards to the importance of this museum for Brevard County. It has shown itself already through the many people who have come through and the many people who see the value and the exhibits that are there. This is an opportunity for Brevard County to showcase national and international exhibitions. And we are very excited as a board. I am the past president of the Florida Historical Society, immediate past president. And I have enjoyed the times that I've worked with the museum and trying to bring things there that will enhance Brevard County. It is a place to showcase what we have here in Brevard. So many different exhibits, from the surfing exhibits to citrus exhibits to the Moore exhibits, all kinds of a variety of exhibits we have at the museum. I would really, it would be a shame if we did not continue to support what we're trying to do as an organization and what we're trying to do for Brevard County and for the state as a whole, because we're not just a Brevard County organization, we are a state organization. And a lot of people look to us as an organization to guide them in the things that they're doing. And we are helping to assist with the Jewel Collins because we do have the expertise that exists across the state that will bring validity and also insight into things that are happening here in Cocoa. So while I'm a resident of Cocoa, there are residents among our board that comes from Tallahassee, that comes from Fort Myers, that come from across the state, who bring their expertise from universities and organizations, museums. The Orange County Museum, Historical Museum is one of our board members. So we bring to this museum a lot of expertise and trying to keep it going the way it needs to be, and to also to support Florida for the magnificent things we have here in this state, and to showcase those things as well. So I just wanted to add my support towards this effort, and hope that the City Council will see the importance.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Ben.
Okay, that was the end of our awards and presentation. We're going to move on to delegations, and first up we have Tammy Eastborough.
Tammy Eastburn, 6695 Porto Road. Good evening. I'm sure council has been informed of my termination after almost 32 years of dedicated service. I have given each of you a copy of my performance evaluation that was given to me on February 27th, along with my previous one submitted by my former manager that was denied by the finance director. What you have in front of you is a classic example of retaliation, retribution at the highest levels, an amount of abuse of power that I have never seen before with the city of Cocoa. And all of this was done under the direction of the city manager. Keep in mind, the purchasing manager was only hired 6 months ago with zero municipal experience. Within the 6 months, he has had bid protest and terminated a 31-year veteran. The citizens and watchdogs and bidders of Cocoa need to be paying close attention to purchasing, specifically for transparency. I would just have to say the so-called termination hearing that was given to me was unjust and complete and absolutely humiliating. Per the city's personnel handbook, I was not allowed legal counsel, so I had to represent and defend myself to try to keep my job from the same person that was forcing me out. Under the leadership of Mr. Ducanich, 2 new unions have evolved. As we know, unions are only brought in because of poor management. Myself and others have attempted to join unions but have been denied. This is why arbitration is critical. This hearing was to defend myself and have witnesses to confirm my side of what was being falsely presented to upper management, to the city manager who was part of it. 80% of my questions were shut down by the city manager himself. I asked the purchasing manager why he was taking pictures of creepy sexual harassment. I asked why the purchasing manager directed me to use Post-it notes on specific types of emails. The city manager's strategic planning, he has went from a 3-person department to, well, currently I don't know how many people work under him. I just know it's a lot. The tactical placement of his power to purge and shut down employees that take care and love their jobs, to follow city policy, he gets rid of. Now the employees know the extent and level and the dishonesty and the ethical choices these executive team members will go to protect the city manager and some of his executive staff. To tell you the truth, I find it horrifying. I know many extremely talented and dedicated employees that have been instructed to resign under similar circumstances. They followed policies and asked questions about things that were going on and not part of the city policy. They did this because they cared, and for this they were forced out. I am pleading for council not to renew the city manager's contract, to look seriously into the wrongdoings on the 3rd floor, specifically why cash is never balanced, why we are changing everything in purchasing, starting with transparency, the excessive sole sources, and why did we pull down the FOM, the Financial Operation Manager manual, from the website. They knew I was going out and from the FRS drop, and I'll be losing over $200,000 in drop money. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next we have Ms. Anita Gibson, I'm sorry. Gibson. Right there.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Anita Gibson. I live at 451 Stone Street, Cocoa, Florida, and I am here pleading and asking about the cold case unit. I've been in constant contact with Chief Cantaloupe, Detective Colombo, and I would like for the council to direct me on where we need to go with this, as far as, do we need a budget to have this cold case unit, not only for Cocoa, but for Brevard County. The residents of Cocoa need to feel that we matter as far as the murder rate that's going on in Cocoa that has been higher than I've known in my lifetime since I've been living in Cocoa. So if it's a matter of a budget or grants, I can give my email address, my phone number, to find out what can we do. I want to find out who murdered my son. Nobody on this planet gets away with murder. That's a given. But I will fight tooth and nail to find out what happened. And murder is the hardest thing to prove. But I want some closure, and I will die fighting for closure to find out who murdered my son December 9th, 2016. So I'm begging for a cold case unit. I've been in touch with the folks in Tallahassee. I've made phone calls. I've emailed. I'm going to keep after this until we, the citizens, feel that we matter. We're safe in Cocoa. Our children are safe. So we want to come visit Cocoa, and they say, oh, no, you know, your children might subject to get shot and killed. Don't go on Fisk. Don't go on 520 Fisk or Mitchell. We all need to feel that Cocoa matter to all of us. We're not going black and white. We say all of us as a unit. We should all care. And so all I'm asking for is a cold case unit to be implemented in Cocoa that covers not only Cocoa but Brevard County. And I'm coming time and time again until I can figure out which direction I need to go in to make this a reality, and I will. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Ms. Gibson a question?
Yes, ma'am.
You know the sheriff does have a cold case unit.
The
Right.
sheriff?
Yeah, have you talked to him?
No, I've only talked to Chief Cantaloupe, and he was saying that it's a matter of budget. You have to have officers, office space, phone lines, agents
You've got-
dedicated to that.
You've
So I
got
don't
my
know about
number.
the
Why
sheriff.
don't you call me? I'll go with you to talk to the sheriff.
The sheriff?
Yeah. Anita
Okay.
and I worked together for a lot of years, so I remember when her child was born.
Yes, you do.
So if you will call me, I will go with you to see Sheriff Ivy. We'll make an appointment. And we'll talk to him about his cold case unit.
Okay.
Until we can do something ourselves, we'll get his guys working on it.
Okay, that's perfect.
All right.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our, oh no, that's our reports, advisory boards and committee, Miss Jenny Riggs.
Jennifer Riggs, 1629 North Indian River Drive, and I have happy news. At long last, the Sustainability Advisory Committee has completed.
Is there-
That
Can't hear
mic-
you, Jenny.
Which one?
Oh,
You might want to pick it up.
Yeah. Okay, happy news.
There you go.
The Sustainability Advisory Committee has completed its draft plan, and it will be coming in your way soon, coming in your direction soon, directors. And this represents over 800 hours of volunteer efforts. And I believe this is the first time that a volunteer committee has been charged with creating a work product. And that's an incredible value for COCO because many of our members do this professionally. So it's a testament to their belief in COCO that they volunteered these hours to the benefit of COCO. So come in your way, and you'll be getting a letter to introduce the context of it. And if you have any questions, I certainly would like to answer them and help facilitate your review of that. And we really look forward to collaborating with you, especially Public Works. Thank you.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any other boards or committees that would like to come up and give any reports? Okay, Public Works, Mr. Bryant.
Yes, just a couple items. Our annual resurfacing, we're looking to start the flat work probably later this week, so that's the sidewalks and curbs. And we'll follow up with the actual mill and resurface probably late April or early May. And then Pineta's still on schedule for early summertime as well. We recently worked with the Church at Vieira over at Hilo and Fern and Prospect Parks. That's one of the many volunteer groups we've been dealing with over the past couple months, and I think the work there turned out really well. At the end of this month, Publix is coming into Bracco to do some more cleanup through that area, as well as some plantings around some of the entry features there.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Rebecca.
Just
Finance.
want to let council know the annual audit is currently underway and the statements will be issued by the end of April.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief Cantaloupe.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Chief Lamb.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir.
No report, sir.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir.
No report.
Okay, Ms. Shively.
No report.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
No report, sir.
Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, pursuant to my existing employment agreement, on or before the first regular meeting of City Council, meeting 6 months prior to the expiration of any term of the agreement, I'm required to present to City Council for review and consideration automatic renewal for an additional 3-year term. My current term expires September 30th, 2020. I've had the distinct honor and privilege of serving the City of Cocoa for the past 18 plus years. During my tenure with the City of Cocoa, I've worked tirelessly to improve the community and enhance the quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. I began my career with the City of Cocoa in January of 2002, creating the Office of Economic Development, serving briefly as the Deputy Community Development Director, more than 8 years as the Community Development Director, and the past 7+ years as City Manager. After much reflection and consideration, I will not be seeking an additional term as City Manager. My decision to not seek an additional...
That's totally uncalled for. You guys work for the city of Cocoa. Act like it. Well, then you don't have to, but our employees should respect this council chamber and the public that is in this council chamber.
Thank you. Yeah, if we could just please let him go ahead and finish.
After much reflection and consideration, I will not be seeking an additional term as city manager. My decision to not seek an additional term is a personal and professional decision based on what is in the best interest of my family and in furtherance of my public service career. It was not an easy decision, but is the right decision and one with which I'm at peace. As a professional public administrator and servant, you strive to make a difference. Working alongside and with some of the most passionate and committed public servants, it is with a profound sense of pride and professional fulfillment I will leave the city in a better place than when I was first hired as its economic development manager, and the same organizationally since being appointed city manager. The management team is highly competent, professional, and dedicated, and our employees genuinely care for the residents and businesses they serve. The city is in good hands. I will render a resignation at a time in the future consistent with the provisions of my employment agreement, and as I've assured each council member individually, I will continue to administer the affairs of the city consistent with the provisions of the city charter, the laws of the state of Florida, and you can rely on me to adhere to and use the ethical tenets of the ICMA Code of Ethics as the compass by which I handle and administer the administrative and operational affairs of the city. I would like to thank the City Council and the residents of the City of Cocoa for the opportunity to serve this community. I would especially like to thank the dedicated members of staff as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Question, Mr. City Attorney. Do we make a motion to go ahead and not have that automatic renewal of his contract or city manager's contract right now, or do we?
No, I don't think you need to do anything. I think, if I recall, the contract requires him to state whether or not he wants an additional term under the contract. The city manager has indicated that he does not. So the contract, unless the city manager resigns before, expires on September 30th, I believe. So no action is required regarding the contract.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilwoman Warner.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bovair. Reports. Councilman Goins. Deputy Mayor Goins, I'm sorry.
Again, I'd like to give a big congratulations to Mr. Smith and the Public Works Department, man. Y'all did an awesome job working with Church at Viera. February 29th, they implanted probably close to 300 volunteers from Rosa Jones all the way to Endeavor area. So all you seen was really a sea of red shirts all over the place. And it was just a beautiful thing to see people from most people from outside of the community come in and get their hands dirty and invest time in our community. So they see a value in it, and so I'm very proud of them. And maybe we need to do something. I know Matt said something a couple weeks ago about going to their church, presenting them with something. As a city, we need to do something for their church because they really took the time that day, and they consistently do this from time to time. So I think we need to do something for Church at Viera. That's my opinion on that. So thank you again, Public Works, for getting out there. I know they have some overtime hours and things of that nature, but when it comes down to our community and clean it up, I mean, sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So I appreciate you.
Mr. Goins, could I suggest, because we do have some other churches who do that, like Pastor Wash and his church, and I know we've had a couple of other churches, maybe we could institute a program of giving them something and maybe having the mayor or the deputy mayor go to church service. And if we just had like a regular, maybe the city staff can put together where we'll do a presentation.
And we just go to their church and present it to them.
Yeah, and give it to them. Yeah.
I
like that.
Volunteer for the city as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Thank you. The next thing was I wanted to update, and I talked to John about this, Matt, about the Michael C. Blake subdivision. I'm really trying to encourage. I know our budget is coming up. I want to encourage all of my council, men and women to really look at in their budget items dealing with affordable housing and housing within our city. I can't tell you what to do, but I do know that in some areas within the city, it looks like a desert in some areas where we have a lot of vacant lots, definitely in the areas around the Blake Diamond Square area. So, when you're doing your budgets, really think about or consider at least allocating some money towards affordable housing. I think that's something we need to do. I know the state is playing around with our Sadowski Fund money. That's one of the major issues that we have right now. But
Maybe not this year.
I hope not. I'm praying. So I just take that into consideration. So can I get an update on the subdivision? I don't know if Nancy or Matt can help me with that.
I can tell you a little bit of something that's been going on. I've talked to Nancy about it a little bit, but I've been meeting with 2 developers that are interested in coming in there and wanting to put affordable housing in there, but they are not to the point right now to where they want to come to the staff and speak with the staff. We've just been talking. They've been throwing some stuff out there. One of them has a piece of property that I guess the city wanted a while back that he's interested in swapping for a couple of those lots, a few of those lots, and another one, he's got the funding to come in and develop those properties. And he not only did he want to develop those properties, he actually want to get one of our facilities out in our industrial area where they want to actually manufacture these, I want to say they're metal frame homes, I guess. And they're actually going to manufacture the homes there. They're going to bring, so they want to start that first. Hire some folks to come in here locally to come in and build those and do all that, and then start to fill in some of the infills there throughout the city with some of those lots. But I'm just just learning a little bit about this stuff. But I'm going to be bringing them to staff so he can talk to staff. They can better. They know more about this stuff than I do. So
We have some of those metal frame homes that were built a few years ago right there off of Plucky Bomb. They actually bring in a machine and do the framing right there, and they use old cars. So, he came in and did a presentation several years ago.
Yeah, they actually want to build here, hire here, and then they want this to be a model of the city of Cocoa. So we got a couple more meetings. Once that happens, then I'll turn them over to staff, and then they can do all the talks and dealing with that stuff. And then I guess we can just kind of go from there. And,
With regard to the Michael C. Blake subdivision, as you know, it's been the property has been subdivided. The Diamond Square Redevelopment Agency did appropriate funds for the purposes of trying to make the lots development ready or pad ready. And once that's done, because that will lower the cost, as you're aware, we can build a house for X dollars, but yet it appraises for less than what we paid to build it. And so the idea is if we can offset that cost and have that and turn those lots that are pad ready with utilities and everything there and ready to go, that would lower the bottom line and thus enable a developer, the not-for-profit developer typically, to develop those sites. So that's kind of been the strategy that we've been pursuing, and I think Charlene or Nancy can verify if the Diamond Square Board has engaged the engineering services for that subdivision yet.
No. So would Diamond Square Board be responsible for 100% of the cost for all the installation of the water lines or sewer or any of that? Would they be 100% responsible?
Well, there's and we can talk, and I can talk to each member of the council. There are some provisions in our bond covenants that the council has certain authority related to affordable housing and spurring economic development within the city with a supermajority vote, and provided it provides for an increase in the tax base. So there are some provisions to seek some relief that you could provide, that are consistent with our bond covenants, related to the utilities. Because obviously that's one of the larger expenses.
Okay. I just don't want. I know sometimes government takes a long time to do a lot, right? So I don't want to get to the point where, we go down 2 or 3 years working on the subdivision when we, I want to know is the RFP going out. I need to know when. I just want some kind of a timeline for that area on Michael C. Blake Sudden. I just want something. Because I know sometimes we get distracted with other things and things get pushed out of the way. I don't want this neighborhood to get pushed back. That's my only concern right now. It's just I want this subdivision to be put in priority. That's my thing.
We understand, Deputy Mayor. Please be mindful that the Diamond Square Redevelopment Agency had to be reconstituted, and therefore there was a delay in them being able to move forward with their program year. So I'm sure Charlene will work with, and Nancy will work with staff and the Diamond Square Redevelopment Agency to get those items underway.
Can this be put on the Diamond Square agenda for the next meeting? I know I'm asking for a lot, but it's Monday. Oh God, no. All right. Okay. Oh, I think that was it. And one more thing. I know we gonna have a lot of changes. 2020 is going to be a trying time for the city of Cocoa on many different levels. But understand, as a council, I know sometimes we go at bat a lot. But I assure you that we care about our employees. At the end of the day, we can't do what we do if our employees aren't happy. So I'm telling you from my mouth that I appreciate every last person that's here. I know everyone came today. I'm glad you came today. I appreciate everything that y'all do out in the field. I understand. I work, sweat, and I'm out in that hot sun all day long. So I feel you 100%. But we here for you. Just like all the other citizens, we here for you 100%. But it's going to be some trying times these next few months. There'll be a lot of transition going on. But I promise you that everything will be done professionally and it's going to be done swiftly and make sure that we do the right thing. So I know everybody walking on pins and needles around here. I understand. But I assure you that we're going to do the right thing. So appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Is that it?
Good.
Councilwoman Cox.
Yeah, and I'll just say that, challenges ahead, but we're going to move forward in a positive manner.
Sure.
Because there are lots of positive things happening in this city right now. Starting with our Joe Lee Smith Center is going to be opening up, and we're looking at, and we've had lots of people coming forward from our communities to talk about the Collins Museum. So on April 11th, we're going to be doing another field trip like we did last year, just to gather information and bring people together to visit the Wells-built African American Museum in Orlando. So that'll be publicly noticed, and if anyone wants to join us, you are welcome to on April 11th from 10 to 2. I had the honor to speak at the program the other night for the 100-year anniversary for women's right to vote at Cocoa High School. And that was a great event. The Cocoa High Chorus performed. And, you go to events, you might enjoy them, but when you leave joyful, boy, they're really presenting some great entertainment and spirit. And that is being recognized. They just came back from the regional competition where they were given a superior rating, which pushes them to the state level competition. And I'm telling you, there are at least a dozen new students there, and they are all highly talented. So after their win last year, after going to Carnegie Hall, they're having no problem recruiting new talent from their younger grades. So we're going to hear a lot about them going forward. And then speaking of excellence and champions, we have the Cambridge Elementary chess champions. And they have agreed to teach City Council how to play chess.
Oh, boy.
So, of course, strategic thinking skills. We need to develop those as well as everybody else. But on March 27th, we're going to celebrate them. I'm going to throw them a pizza party, and they're going to teach us how to play chess from 4 to 6. And we're going to do that at the Porcher House. And the reason we're doing that at the Porcher House is because probably some of you know and some don't know, the Porchets, when they built that home, they had a game spirit in mind. They enjoyed games. They were stimulated by games.
Bridge,
and
in particular.
Bridge in particular,
Bridge.
which is a challenging game. So in the spirit of that house, we're going to have the students there, and they are going to teach you how to play chess. And last item is, legislative in nature. I was going to get copies of this. Maybe I can give this to the clerk and everybody can get a copy. It's just an article. It's a particularly good article in Wired magazine in the science section about 2019 being the year humanity declared war on microplastics. This is a big issue. In fact, whole countries, Canada in 2021 will make single-use plastic straws illegal. So there's a transition going on, a recognition. And where does this come from? Well, we have new technologies and the ability to test just microscopically for plastics in our environment. And what we're finding is that they're in the air, they're in the water, they're everywhere. It's probably have implications for water and wastewater treatment down the road. But that microplastic pollution is just tainting every corner of our earth. So it's up to all of us to make that transition. And I think getting rid of plastic straws is a good starting point. So I have a model resolution from Satellite Beach that I would like us to consider this as soon as possible. This will apply to all of the events the city does. I would also like to speak with our Main Street program. I know that they're receptive to making their events more environmentally friendly. In fact, it was Alan Chapman that I spoke to that told me about the Canada making it illegal next year. So can we put this on the agenda? What can I expect? I have this for Anthony. Can we, in a month's
Consensus among
time,
council.
or this sample resolution, could we entertain something similar to this? Do I have a consensus from the council that we could entertain this resolution?
Would it be citywide or?
I mean, we'll,
This would apply to city-held events.
City-held events.
But it also, we would also be encouraging businesses and other events that are held in our city to be a leader in this. I mean, we have a great waterfront. We have lots of activity. Those single-use plastics, the thing about plastic is it lasts forever. It only breaks down. It gets smaller and smaller. So what they're finding is that fish see this, that they're going after it as a food source. It's getting into our food chain. So I know you've heard this from me before, but if we could entertain this, and if I could get at least a general consensus from a couple people.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
yeah, you could bring it back, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So we'll pass this down to Anthony. And I think that would be for the good of Cocoa. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one thing, and the kid is going to kill me if I don't say this. The Emma Jewell Charter Academy Odyssey of the Mind team, they placed third place at the Space Coast Regional Competition, I think last Saturday or maybe 2 Saturdays ago. They're now raising funds. They made it to state competition on April 11th, 2020. It's at the Orange County Convention Center for the Odyssey of the Mind program. So I want to say that because if I don't, I told them I would. If I don't say that, they will kill me.
Thank you, sir.
So our future is bright.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that it? Okay, I'm gonna try to be real quick. I got about a page and a half of stuff, but I'm not gonna go through all this. But anyway, I just first of all, I want to, Mr. City Manager, I want to say that I want to thank you for your service. You have spent about 19 years in the city of Cocoa, and I know that when I look at Fern Meadows, Adamson Creek, and all that expansion out there and annexation, I know you played a vital part in that, with reference to that, and also a vital part with reference to us having a public slips at Whitley Bay and so forth and so on. It's been quite a bit, so I want to thank you for your service and whatever your future brings for you or whatever you're seeking. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You and your family. With that being said, I want to thank the Assistant City Manager and Public Works, whoever went out, and we had some missions in the graveyards and in the PD. There was camps being set up in the graveyards and just a lot of garbage out there. And I appreciate the efforts of cleaning that up. That was really a great job and a lot quicker than I expected. So, but I really do appreciate that. I don't know where we are with the lien amnesty. I'm sure they'll be coming back here soon. Hopefully sometime soon here, so we can move forward with that. And then also our mobile vendors. I'm still waiting to hear back from that and where we are with that. I want to thank, had the pleasure of going to the Black History Month breakfast at Cocoa High School. It was a great event. I had a really good time there. And then also I want to congratulate the girls basketball team. They won the regional district championship, regional championship, and they were in the Final Four, and they lost. But they're winners to us as far as I'm concerned. And I want to congratulate those girls for going that far. It's a young team, so they'll be back next year for sure. So I want to congratulate them. Also at Eastern Florida State College, they had a soul food regala. Great event, enjoyed it for Black History Month. And as well, I want to congratulate the men's basketball team. They were one game shy of winning, going to the state championship to play in a state championship game. So kudos out to those guys. I had the pleasure of going out and speaking with them before they left to go on their trip to Niceville, and they had like a soft practice. I had some flashbacks, but they weren't great flashbacks. I mean, I could jump, but I don't know if I jump as well as some of those guys did. So, but it was a great event, and then I had the pleasure of being the celebrity guest chef at Emma Jewell Charter School, where the chief and we probably had about 3 pounds of turkey bacon and pancakes, but it was a great time. And oh no, actually, I didn't eat anything there. Believe it or not, I was after cooking all that stuff. Man, you just didn't have a taste for food. And then we spoke about perseverance. So it was a really nice time. And also they had a Black History event there that was just phenomenal. I mean, it was standing. I mean, it was a point to where they had to do an overflow in another room and live stream to another room. So. It was incredible. And then C.J. Harris with Brevard County, and also does a radio show on Sundays. He was a Pioneer Award is what he got. So he had a great story to tell with reference to him recovering from cancer. And so that was really a great event. And also, wow. Okay, yeah, and then this past Saturday we had a NAACP leadership event where we had some community leaders from throughout the county, and we sat down and talked about community, some of the things that we can do to better our community here in Central Brevard. And it was a nice event, a lot of good conversation. We're going to have some future talks with that. And also got a tour of the Crying Monk. We were supposed to have a ribbon cutting, but I guess it was canceled, but I am showing up and getting a tour. But they're doing a great job in that facility. It's a really nice facility. So if you get the opportunity, stop in there and take a look at what they're doing there. It's really nice. So with that being said, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, the city's PR specialist has a short presentation on the census.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. And and then also I'm gonna hopefully at our next meeting I'm gonna give you all a heads up, and we're gonna have the Red Eye Rugby team come in and do a short presentation, and also we'll have some discussion with reference to the men's state championship and the youth state championship that's going to be held at Provost Park, and maybe the staff could sit down with them and determine how we're going to best approach that with reference to traffic and all this other stuff that's going to happen there at Provost West. So with that being said, Samantha, did you want to? Or
yeah, I had it.
Deputy Mayor Goins?
I apologize, Samantha. On March 21st, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Harry T. Moore Center, which is at 307 Blake Avenue. We will be having a spring break family picnic. And this is all regarding the 2020 census. So come out for a free family picnic with bounce houses, face painting, balloon artists, and more giveaways. Free food, am I right? Food brings people, so free food. So this is another way for the city. We know the census is very, very important. Some people this weekend, when I was taking some signs in the neighborhood, some people they didn't understand what the census was. So the myth is they're going to get my information. They're going to come tear my door down because I have too many people living in my house or whatever the case may be. That's not the case. Fill out the postcards. Go online because we need those funds for our roads, for our other programs that we have going on. So understand that we need everyone to fill out the form. So try to break the myths. When people say crazy things, just tell them to go online and Google it, and they can read it themselves instead of spreading bad information. So March 21st at the Harry T. Moore Center, 307 Blake Avenue, Cocoa. So we'll be there. City of Cocoa will be there representing. So thank you, Samantha, for reminding me. There are about 10, maybe 12 signs I have right in front of the bald head guy right in front, with two of them. There are signs in the front. So if you want to, please take a sign, put it in your yard. Seriously, man, this is very important for our community to fill out all these forms that we have. I think it takes how long? 5 minutes? 2 minutes? Maybe not even that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right.
And of course, there's jobs as well. Pay $16 an hour. You can make your own schedule, your own time. Can't beat it.
And
also
just dovetail on that, making sure that you count is critical to the city of Cocoa because it affects the funding from the federal level in terms of establishing our population. So we really want to make sure we get out there and encourage your neighbors if they haven't. If you need to, you can call the city. Samantha would certainly be willing to assist you. And we have some volunteers. So the point being is you need to make sure that you count because it affects future funding as it relates to like CDBG and other things like that. So please, take the time. It's a lot simpler. 9 questions, and it's just to get an accurate count of the population of the city of Cocoa.
Thanks, sir.
And also, we're talking $2,000 per person. And at the last census count, it was in the billions
of dollars
that we didn't capture. That could have been used for some of the nonprofits and a lot of other stuff that's out there. So, but anyway, just 3 quick things. Also, Emma Jewell youth men's basketball team won the championship this year as well. Again, I think this is their 2nd year. Am I correct? In a row. And then also, I'd like for us to consider maybe at the next council meeting discussing if we could have it on the agenda to discuss maybe going back to a Tuesday council meeting because the Wednesday nights really interfere with a lot of things that's going on, and Tuesday night will be the best night. And yeah, I heard. Yeah.
Well, it also had to do with there were some issues at the time with the school board, and we've kind of overcome those issues, but Tuesday night definitely was a better night for the majority of people. Wednesday night is still a church night for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
You can have a Sunday morning after church.
Yeah. And then also, I want us to consider maybe bringing back our beautification board that we had. That was a board that I really liked and I admired, and would like to see us possibly bringing that back to the city of Cocoa. With that being said, we can go ahead and move on to we have no consent agenda. We have no public hearing. On the council business, we have item number 1, consider the donation application for Cocoa Youth Athletic Building Tiger Nation project in the amount of $1,000. Penny?
Yes, sir. We received this application from Cocoa Youth Athletics. I don't believe anybody here has from Cocoa High to discuss it. Included in the item was, it doesn't sound like this is on, but can y'all hear me okay? Okay. Included in the item was an update on each council member's budget. Annually, the city budgets $1,000 for each council member. If this donation request is approved as requested, each member would have a remaining balance of $230.
I was told it was $750.
Oh, I'm sorry, $750.
It used to be 1,000.
Yeah.
It got dropped.
Talked about making
This
it 1,000.
this budget request is $1,000. That's
Yeah.
where I was getting the $1,000
Okay.
from.
Motion to approve. We'll
She
have
just said we have
230.
230
230,
after.
right.
230
Yeah.
after approval.
And
each of you.
Each
Yeah.
individually, yeah.
And the clerk's office should have received a request from the Marine Resources Council today. It was to be in by 5 o'clock, so
Well,
I
yeah.
am.
Okay, we got
I
a
have
motion
request
from,
coming.
we got a motion from
That'll be it.
Councilwoman Warner. Did we get a second?
Oh, well, that we will be entertaining another request at the next meeting for the Marine Resources Council.
So right now, we'll be $200 a piece right now.
Yeah,
we
but
only
we're,
have.
but we're
pretty-
just talking about this
And
right
then it
here right
starts
now.
over in October.
Let's just go with this right here
Okay.
for right now, or whatever you all want to do, so.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Warner, a second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 2, which was an add-on. And,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
this
sir.
is a resolution for the City Council to declare an exception to the Financial Operations Manual Purchasing Policy due to coronavirus and the possible effects to the City of Cocoa operations. More specifically, on Monday, March 9th, Governor DeSantis issued an executive order declaring the appropriate measures to control the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19 in the state of Florida were necessary, and then directed a public health emergency be declared in the state of Florida. Earlier today, Wednesday, March 11th, Governor DeSantis upgraded the public health emergency to a state of emergency and designated the Florida Department of Emergency Management as the lead state agency to coordinate emergency response. The City of Cocoa is desiring to take precautionary measures to control the spread of COVID-19 by purchasing supplies and entering into contracts as necessary to ensure the continuous operations of the city, and that the city, and because time is of the essence to procure such goods and services due to supplies being limited. By way of some background information, first and foremost, as it relates to what the city's been doing, we do have a working group that's a staff working group that's met. Chief Lamb has been participating in the Brevard EOC. Our public relations and assistant to the city manager, Samantha Sanger, has been participating in the Brevard County Public Information Networks. At the end of the day, the city's staff is looking to, its top priority is to protect the health and safety of our employees, to ensure that we will still be here and we can continue to operate and provide, municipal services. Just as a general overview, there's been 21 Florida residents that have, tested positively, and there's been 2 Florida deaths. They're currently monitoring a little more than 1,200. There are people that were monitored to date were a little more than 1,200, about 350 being monitored. Some contact information has been provided to you for the public. If you were to feel like you have the symptoms, the coughs, the sneezes, the flu-like symptoms, respiratory shortness of breath, we're going to encourage you to call the Department of Health at 1-866-779-6121. You could always call the Brevard County Department of Health, 321-454-7101, and you report that. And then also you can reach out 211. In terms of what the city administration has been doing related to operations, we've been evaluating staffing in terms of identifying those positions that might be, we'll just say, have an elevated risk, such as first responders, our customer service individuals, whether they be the utilities customer service or the community development, those who are going to come have a greater likelihood in coming in contact with members of the public that might unknowingly be carrying the virus. And IT is currently looking at and testing the ability for us to implement some telecommuting options if that's necessary. And we continue to evaluate the employees to determine which employees would be, we could reasonably, have to telecommute to maintain operations. We are, in terms of focusing on some precautionary measures at City Hall or all city facilities. We have each of the departments are going to be, responsible for collecting their trash and depositing in a single location, and to free up some time for our custodial workers so they can spend an additional amount of time in our key public areas to more frequently sanitize and clean those locations. The departments are continuing to work on their contingencies and their continuity of operations plan. Have instituted a moratorium on work-related airline travel for any employees, as well as travels to areas where identified and known coronavirus cases exist. We will be coming back to council, I would imagine, to discuss the issue of mass gathering in public meetings if the issue was to present itself within Brevard County. We already have compiled a list of all the special events over the next several months for the purposes of understanding, since we do have so many special events within the city of Cocoa. And so we're looking at that. I have authorized the lease and purchase of hand washing stations that will be placed at key city facilities to aid the public in preventing the transmission of COVID-19. And with that, the other thing I would add is the public relations is been doing PSAs or public service announcements. We've actually had one of our firefighters do a hand washing video. It's been pushed out on the website as well as social media platforms, pushing out information on manners in which to pay your bill to avoid coming to City Hall. Because obviously if City Hall gets affected in customer service, it could shut down the entire until we have a better understanding of the sanitation and the desanitizing to protect the public as well as our employees. We continue to participate in the Brevard County Public Information Network and the Brevard EOC, and also the Finance Department has created a project number for the purposes of tracking expenditures, in the event there's a future, with the state of emergency, there's a future federal funding. So that's the purpose of the resolution. It's to enable us to, it's not declaring a local emergency, but providing that flexibility within the guidelines of the existing controls in terms of the spending authority to purchase and acquire goods necessary, because we've already found that it just and you see it on the news, the media, hand sanitizers and other things. It's just hard to get a hold of right now.
Thank you, sir. And I just wanted to add that I was on a call-in briefing with the White House today for about an hour, from about 1 to 2 o'clock, and as well as a lot of other elected officials at that time as well. But I know that they've been working with the Florida, the FDEM, which is the
Department of Emergency Management.
And they were talking about a lot of different things with reference to local businesses and some that might be affected by this whole event. So they are looking at a lot of different things as far as reimbursement, depending on what effect it have with your businesses, and as well as they talked about our back orders that we might have for supplies, and they're encouraging us. And I didn't hear you say this, but they're encouraging us to buy local, and they're encouraging us to get in line right now and start doing that. So, with that being said, that's some of the little bit of the meeting guts of what was discussed today in that conference call. So, but I guess you want us to make a motion to adopt this resolution, or?
That would be correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We got a motion from Councilman Bover.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
I understand that Westminster Asbury has at least a partial quarantine. That's an assisted living facility.
It's not been reported.
Westminster Asbury has just a partial quarantine in that visitors are not allowed in.
Oh, okay. Because there's been no.
So that's an example of where you have that
Yes.
target population. Also, I understand that's going to be, our police department would actually enforce quarantines if it came to that, God forbid. But if it came to that, I mean, that
That's where
seems
we
like-
would follow the direction of with the governor issuing that the FDEM would be the lead state agency, and under the National Incident Management System, we would follow the lead going all the way down. And if the Brevard EOC was activated, there would be a policy group, and then would, implement policies. I can tell you, I've talked with other cities and city managers, and everybody right now is going through what do they do in advance. This is not like preparing for the hurricane. So we are looking at policies related to how we're going to handle if employee, if they're self quarantined because they've come in contact with somebody or they have it, that time. It just there's a lot of decisions to be made, and once we have some more, we're certainly going to come back to council. But we're just trying to make sure that we understand, and I know Tammy and Rebecca, Matt, and the chief, myself, we've been pouring through chiefs, a lot of issue. Brian, coming up with the idea about loosening the load on the custodial staff for purposes of spending more time in public areas to make sure that they're desanitized and clean. So it's like it is a staff effort, and so I just want to assure you that your staff is working hard to try to do everything to ensure the continuity and the continuous operations of the city, because that would be it could be detrimental if City Hall had to close because there was we had an outbreak here.
All right, sir. Okay, we're gonna move on to city business and approve a water service agreement, interlocal agreement between the city of Cocoa and the city of Cocoa Beach. Mr. Walsh.
Yes, sir. This is item number 1 under city business to approve a water service agreement, interlocal agreement between the city of Cocoa and the city of Cocoa Beach to provide water service to Cocoa Beach customers. As you may or may not be familiar, we have a couple franchise agreements that we currently maintain. One of them being with Cocoa Beach. It expired actually about 2 years ago. Took us a little bit to get with the attorneys to get the language updated and revised. Both the city of Cocoa Beach attorneys as well as our attorney have reviewed the agreement and find it acceptable, so we're bringing it in front of council for formal approval. So I'm here to answer any of your questions if you have any on that item.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve. We get a motion from Councilman Bovair.
Second.
Second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 2, approve the second addendum to the binding development agreement between the city of Cocoa and Cocoa, Florida, and the Cocoa Grand LLC. Mr. City Attorney, do you want to talk on that, or?
Why don't
I'm
I?
sorry. Go ahead, Nancy.
On October 10, 2017, City Council approved a binding development agreement for the subject parcel, which is located on State Road 520, just west of the Space Coast Honda dealership. Originally, it was planned as an independent living facility, adult congregation living facility, and a 55 and older residential area to be constructed on the southern portion of the parcel around the existing lake, with some commercial on the northern portion. On March 14, 2019, City Council entered into an addendum to the binding development agreement, which significantly altered the substance of the project and allowed for the development of a 312 multifamily unit apartment complex. The addendum established deadlines with which the developer would need to complete the applications for further development approvals and obtain such approvals, which have or are about to expire. So the developer is now requesting an extension of these deadlines and has also requested approval for certain tree removal activities prior to site plan approval. Typically, trees are removed after site plan approval or at building permit issuance. So with the request for the tree removal activities, they will also provide security for the city in case for some reason the project doesn't go forward, they've already removed all the trees. There will be either cash security, some kind of collateral, where the city could replace the trees.
Thank you, ma'am.
And so, tell me, it's kind of an odd figure, $107,022. How do you come to that? Is that based on how many specimen trees there are, or?
Yeah,
Because it was
there's a-
unclear to
Brian,
me
can-
how many trees we were actually removing.
Yeah, we used previous quotes from trees and kind of back calculated through the amount of inches of trees removed and kind of turned that into credits, and that's how we came up with the number. So we looked at some other city codes as well as some previous quotes that we've gotten as well to determine that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a total of 326 trees. 19 are elms, 22 oaks, 24 maple, 4 laurel oaks, and then the 257 are just palm trees.
Oh, and all of those are going to be removed, or just?
But
There's-
they got to replace them. They got mitigation too.
And they will be adding some trees.
Mhm.
It's just where they're located.
Right.
There's also a gas easement there. And so they were very restricted as to where they could put the buildings.
Okay. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Goins,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, we can move on to item number 3. Approval to apply for Florida Inland Navigation District Fine Grant for 2 important projects.
So council will remember that Coco Sierra earlier tonight had approved funding this project if it receives the fine grants. The fine grants would provide 50% of the assistance for the projects. The first project is the reconstruction of the boat ramps at Lee Winter Park. They're in disrepair and need reconstruction. The project activity would include the demolition of the existing ramps and embankments and reconstructing the concrete boat ramp, which would also include stabilizing the existing launching docks. The approximate cost is $300,000. The second project would be the dredging project within the city-controlled submerged lands adjacent to Lee Winter Park in the waterfront area. The estimated cost for that is also $300,000.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion from Councilman Bover,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, item number 4, approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Cocoa and City of Cape Canaveral.
Yes, sir. This item number 4, approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Cocoa and the City of Cape Canaveral to identify and share common costs associated with the design, permitting, bidding, and installation of the Cocoa Utilities Project and the Cape Canaveral Thurm Boulevard Project under a unified joint project. So we regularly try to coordinate with all of our agencies, and where we have overlap between some of the proposed projects that we have in our CIP as well as in their CIP, and in this case they lined up. Thurm Boulevard has some AC water line that we were actually already had identified as an area that we wanted to replace, and so by entering into this agreement, we're able to agree to share some costs and have some savings between both agencies. So it's agencies cooperating. So I'm here to answer any other questions if you have anything on the agreement.
Thank you, sir.
This is a great thing that we do. Looking forward and coordinating. Okay.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Just to say that I know there's been, like the Merritt Island project, there was significant savings on that and really helps everybody out. Motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
You got a motion from Councilwoman Cost, second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Review the obligation contained in the Lakeside Palm West Binding Development Agreement. Ms. Bond.
Thank you. This is in regards to Lakeside Palms West, which is just directly across from Lakeside Palms East on the southern side of Clear Lake, close to Plucky Bomb, the last parcel outside before you get outside of the city limits. It is an 89-lot subdivision under the RU 210 lot standards, which would also include certain open space amenities. The agreement established the timing of the future permitting obligations following the effective date of the agreement, which was February 11th, 2019. The property owner had 12 months to complete the site plan and preliminary subdivision approvals, consistent with Section 18-30 of the City Code. The owner was required to apply for the final subdivision approval within 1 year of the date and the preliminary subdivision approval. Failure to do so would result in preliminary subdivision approval to cease and become void. The Lakeside Palms West project obtained conditional large-scale site plan approval from the Planning and Zoning Board on December 5th, 2018. City Council conditionally approved a preliminary subdivision for the Lakeside Palms West subdivision project, subject to similar conditions as included for the large-scale site plan on February 13th, 2019. However, the owner of the project failed to apply for the final plat within the 1 year, rendering the preliminary plat null and void as indicated by the City Code. So the developer has requested an extension for 1 year on the development agreement. Staff is requesting that 12 months. We would recommend 12-month extension for them to go ahead and proceed with that.
Thank you, ma'am. We got a motion from Councilman Bover.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I know we have a few new subdivisions coming online. One is already pretty much done, and then this is going to be a new one. I know with the new population coming in, it's going to affect our district maps, right? So when are we having that conversation about, well, at what time do we have?
So after the census is usually take, maybe now it's going to take less time. I don't know, but I mean, it's been my experience over the last 30 years. It's 3 censuses that it's usually about 2 years after the census is taken, and then, so you'd be looking, if they follow the same process by which they release the information in the counts, then we would be evaluating. The city council would be evaluating. You put together a charter committee. You look at the districting, look at the counts for each district. There's a couple different conditions that need to be ensured, because obviously there's a consent decree in terms of, ensuring that there's a seat that's majority-minority representation. So that usually happens around April of, like, we'll say in this case, April 22 is the time that information would come out. My recollection last time was that we went right up. And I think the mayor was on the council, and we went right up to probably just right before qualifying, before we were able to. Because once you get that count, it takes, you got to do maps. Obviously, we got GIS. It's a lot easier now. You appoint a committee, and they come up with proposed districts, and then they're evaluated by staff and the attorney to make sure that we're following the fair, the Voting Rights Act as well as the consent decree. And then there may be some adjustments, but we break them down and show what the numbers are for each district to ensure that we're in compliance.
So our new residents can now vote in our 2020 election, basically.
What's that?
The new residents that we have now, like in Lakeside Palms, they will be able to vote in
whatever district they currently are in.
Okay.
They'll be, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
And then as well as that, just any other concerns that might be in the charter, that will be the time for the charter committee or anything that's brought up. It'll be looked into it, yeah. But anyway, you have your information agenda. We can get a motion to adjourn.
Well, Mayor, before you do that,
Yes, sir.
Just point of clarification. I think this was inferred on that last item that the council approved. There was an option, either extend for 12 months or the declaration of a default. Based on the last comment from our community development director,
it was a 12 months, yeah.
I'm assuming it's a 12-month extension.
And that's for the DA.
For the DA.
There's still the issue of the site plan.
That's all
We got to
of it.
work with the developer on the site plan, and they've made some changes to the elevations, which would require them to resubmit a preliminary subdivision. We've had the discussion.
That's in
I
the
know they're
agenda
not.
item, John. It's the way it's written. I just want to make sure when Carrie goes back and listens to the tape and does the minutes,
yeah,
and she sees that
Just
it's
the DA.
One or the other, it's reflected in the minutes as an extension of the development agreement for a 12-month time period.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's the way the community development director served it up on the last comment. I just want to make sure it's clear on the record.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Okay, I made a motion to adjourn.
We got a motion adjourned from Councilman Bover. Second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nope.
Y'all had this.
As I was saying,